Being Belarusian and speaking both Russian and Belarusian languages, I'm very excited to share with you the differences between two of these beautiful languages. And many of you may think that by studying Russian language, it will be way easier for you to learn Belarusian language as well. But to answer this question, first of all, let me read two world-famous works. One of it was written by the Belarusian author Vladimir Korotkevich, and the other one in Russian language was written by Alexander Pushkin. So let's start with Belarusian one. And the work called «Земля под белыми крылами», which means the land under the white wings. Зараз весна. Над усёй нашай краінай, наставіўшы белыя ветразі крылаў, планіруюць буслы. Іх многія і многія тысячы, хто лічыў. На вільчыках сялянскіх хат, на дрэвах, на калонах старых разбураных палацаў, на слупах капліц сярод маладога зялёнага жыта. Гнёзды паўсюль. And let's continue with the very romantic part, which is Evgeny Onegin, and this is a letter from Tatiana to Onegin. Я к вам пишу. Чего же более? Что я могу еще сказать? Теперь я знаю, вашей воле меня презрением наказать. Но вы, к моей несчастной доле, хоть каплю жалости храня, вы не оставите меня. Сначала я молчать хотела, поверьте, моего стыда вы не узнали б никогда. Когда б надежду я имела, хоть редко, хоть в неделю раз в деревне нашей видеть вас, чтоб только слышать ваши речи, вам слово молвить, и потом все думать об одном, и день и ночь. До новой встречи. I hope you enjoyed these beautiful world-famous works in original language, but I think it's also immediately clear that Russian and Belarusian languages differ from each other. And it is connected first of all to the fact that the Belarusian language was formed from the old Russian language during the Middle Ages, when the Belarusian lands became a part of the Grand Duchy of Lithuania, and at that time it was temporarily separated from the rest of Russia. And there are, I would say, the main three differences in our languages. First one is, of course, phonetics. Because the phonetics of the Belarusian language was significantly influenced by the Lithuanian and Polish languages. For example, in Russian language, there are sounds like d and t. I will write for you here. So this is d and t in Russian language. In Belarusian language, d becomes z, and t becomes ts. For example, a word like day, in Russian it's день, and in Belarusian language it's день. I can write for you, so you understand better. The same sounds at the beginning, yeah? День in Russian language, you can see, yeah? And in Belarusian it becomes день, d, z, yeah? Or another word, тень, which is shadow. Тень in Russian language, тень. In Belarusian language, t becomes ц, so тень, тень, тень. But I especially like the differences in g and h. It's really just like a Belarusian sound, this h. It's also how you can easily identify if this person is Belarusian or Russian by this exact sound. So, for example, there is a word which is город. Город is city in Russian language, yeah? So we write like this. Город, we write, but we spell it like город. And in Belarusian language, we say город. And here you also can see difference, yeah? But I will explain you this a bit later. So, город in Russian language and город in Belarusian language. And it's interesting because many Belarusian people, when they speak Russian language, they mistake these phonetic rules, and instead of g, they say a bit of h, you know, and yes, it is exactly the thing how you can identify which nationality this person is, Russian or Belarusian. And the second difference is orthography. So there is a rule in Belarusian language. How it is heard is how it is written. period. And I love personally this rule. That is exactly was the reason why I was passing the Belarusian exam instead of Russian when I was entering university, because it's honestly, guys, easier as to my mind. Also, when you think about learning Russian or Belarusian, in general, Belarusian language is easier, because literally how you hear is how you write, while in Russian language you have to know thousands of rules, either it will be O or A. So this makes it complicated, even not for you, just for us as well. For example, there is a word milk in Russian language. It's written moloko, but we say молоко. In Belarusian language, it becomes молоко. How you hear it, this is how you write it. Perfect. It's also funny because when Russian people come to Belarus and they see that, especially we have in Belarus very tasty sweet milk in like a blue banka box, you know, from Glubokaya. It's a Vitebsk area. They love it, we love it as well. When you're in Belarus, you have to try it, it's amazing. So it's written also there, молоко, in Belarusian language, and Russian people are like, what? Like, why it's written like this? Because we have different rules. And here as well, our word город, yes, city. You can see that we say город in Russian language, but we write O. Here, in Belarusian language, we say город, and this is how we write it. Super easy. And the Belarusian language has a large number of unique words which are completely not understandable for Russian people. For example, there are some words which are still coming from ancient Russian language and they are already forgotten in the current Russian language. For example, there is a word ваверка in Belarusian language. This is squirrel in English. And in ancient Russian language it was веверица. Currently in Russian language is белка. But you can see веверица and ваверка is still very similar to each other. Or also the months in Belarusian language is still original Slavic. For example, October in Russian language it is октябрь, and in Belarusian language it is костричник. Костричник, it's very beautiful. And some Belarusian words were actually borrowed from foreign languages and they are not existing in Russian language. For example, the word spazier, which is a walk, comes from German language, spazieren gehen, yeah, spazieren gehen. Or even Dach, which is a roof, it's also from German language, exactly, Dach, roof. Or the word шуфлядка, which is like a drawer for a table. It comes from German Schublade. And I also have some historical explanation why it's happening. So the German words came into the Belarusian language directly from German merchants, colonists, craftsmen, and military specialists invited to the Grand Duchy of Lithuania, as well as through the Polish language, which was intensively used in the second half of the 16th and 17th centuries. So if you are from Germany and you were thinking to learn Russian or Belarusian, I think Belarusian is a better choice for you. And some words in Belarusian language have completely different meaning in Russian language. For example, the word divan, which is a carpet, in Russian language it's ковер, and in Russian language divan means sofa. So answering your question, if it's make your life easier to learn Belarusian when you already know a Russian language, I would say no, it's not, just slightly, because even majority of Russian people, they honestly don't understand so much Belarusian language. But it is also worth noting that we in Belarus practically don't use Belarusian language anymore. And me being a Belarusian, it is very sad to say, but Belarusian language is a dying language. Yes, unfortunately. I have some studies here, sociological, which shows that 34% of Belarusians declared that they are fluent in Belarusian language, but only 6% of Belarusians say that they use the Belarusian language all the time, and almost 74% use Russian language all the time, and 21% do not use the Belarusian language at all. At the same time, in the Belarusian villages, people still use Belarusian language, and even more, all the subjects in the schools in the village, they all in Belarusian language, while in cities it is in Russian language. And imagine how suffering kids when they are coming from village suddenly to study in the university, and they have to speak fluently Russian, you know, and all the words, everything, you know, the communication between each other, it's all suddenly Russian. It is not easy, guys, believe me that. But if you decide to practice your Belarusian language, then, as you can see, you have to go to the Belarusian village, which is also very beautiful. I have some videos which I will put for you links somewhere here. It's lovely, really. Belarusian village is one love. But interesting fact that in 2020s it suddenly became sharply popular to speak Belarusian language again, especially among young people, which was showing that this person was patriot of his country and also very intelligent. But I would say it more was like exception of the rule rather than some tendency which will continue to develop. No, it's exception. Nevertheless, since the Belarusian language is the state language of the Republic of Belarus, on the par with Russian. And tell us in comments which language do you like more, Belarusian or Russian. And if you want to learn even more about the culture of Belarusians, I suggest you to watch this following video on the screen.